Hello and welcome.
It's Lauren. Today I'm sharing with you some hacks on how I made my trip to Paris so affordable. And it all starts with where I live.
My current base is in the south of the Netherlands, so for anyone outside of continental Europe, I'm sorry, but you probably won't be able to find a trip to Paris this cheap. My mom and her boyfriend came to visit me in Sittard, Netherlands, where I currently live, from my hometown in America. They had never been to this part of Europe before, so what better way to introduce them to the area than to take a trip all the way from Sittard to Paris? The original plan was for the four of us to travel by train, but after looking into prices, I was surprised by how expensive they were. For a 4-hour ride, a single one-way ticket was €150, so over 300 USD round trip per person.
No thanks. So that led us to an option I hadn't considered before. A bus. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Buses are not it. I thought that same way too.
Until we took a leap of faith with this trip and traveled with Flixbus all the way from Maastricht, Netherlands to Paris, France. We ended up paying 50 USD each for round-trip tickets. It actually felt like we were doing something wrong getting tickets for this cheap. The only downfall was that the journey did take us 7 hours, but it was still totally worth it in my eyes. The bus was clean, pretty spacious, and we took several stops for bathroom and snack breaks. This gas station had a really intense selection of coffee. Pretty fancy. In case you're wondering, the bus did have a toilet. It was just absolutely micro. Thankfully, none of us ended up having to use it. The ride itself was enjoyable. We passed through some city scenes as well as beautiful countrysides of first Belgium, then France. It was 11 p.m. by the time we made it to our destination, Bercy-Seine bus station, located in the heart of Paris. This place was massive, with people and buses everywhere, and not a lot of room to spare. I mean, look how close this bus was to a crowd of people while backing up. Pretty terrifying. Okay, now for part 2 on how my trip was so affordable, the Airbnb. When looking for the perfect spot, I always try to find a place somewhat outside of a city center, so I'm not paying downtown prices. But also not too far outside, because then I'm going to spend just as much money on transportation trying to get into the city as I would save. So I settled on a place on the east side that was a perfect fit for our party of 4. Situated beside Bois de Vincennes Park, we enjoyed a peaceful escape from the city noise while still being just a 15-minute walk from the nearest metro station, which had us in the heart of Paris in under 10 minutes. And our total price? 505 USD, breaking down to just 125 per person for all 3 nights. Simply amazing. As we know, transportation and lodging tend to be the most expensive parts of a vacation, so I wanted to include a breakdown of those exclusively in this video. But aside from that, I'm not documenting how each of my euros are spent. But I will include some prices of excursions along the way. I had a few must-sees planned for the day, but aside from that, the main goal was just to take in the city by foot as we passed it in the moment. We walked to the station near our Airbnb and hopped on the metro to the city center. I had macaroons on my mind, and there is simply no better place to satisfy those cravings than the one and only Ladurée. Ladurée's fame stems from their invention of the modern double shell macaroon, a delicate pastel-colored pastry filled with silky ganache. We went to the brand's flagship store on the Champs-Élysées, which, if you're not familiar with Paris, the Champs-Élysées is the most famous avenue here. Fun fact about Ladurée, they reportedly sell over 15,000 macaroons a day worldwide. They also sell tons of other delicious treats too, if macaroons aren't your thing. Can't forget to mention how nicely they package your treats before you leave. They sure know how to win a girl over.
Here's a fun fact. It might look like a small bag, but it smells like a big one.
Apparently, you can also find luxury cars displayed on the Champs-Élysées, like we saw that day, alongside the several other flagship stores, luxury boutiques, theaters, and cafes. And waiting for you at the end of this glorious avenue is a wonderful surprise, the Arc de Triomphe. Inside this arc, there's a little museum covering some French history, but most people go inside to climb the 284 steps it takes you to get to the rooftop for a panoramic view of the city. You can even see the Eiffel Tower from here at night. The most exciting part of our day was about to unfold, the Eiffel Tower. I had been to Paris once before in the spring of 2019, so I had seen the Eiffel Tower, but I feel like nothing can prepare you for the sheer beauty and amazement that one feels when they set eyes on the tower, whether it be for the first time or the 50th time. I think I could look at it every day and still be in awe. There are a ton of gardens surrounding Eiffel, so we found ourselves a not too busy spot to enjoy our treats. Mom chose a tiramisu, so we split that while enjoying a perfect spring day. Sitting next to my mom on the grass of the Eiffel Tower, sun shining, enjoying a fabulous dessert, I thought that this could potentially be the peak of the trip, but things were about to get even better. And no, I don't mean like I was about to eat 8 of the best macaroons of my life better. Something big was about to happen. Before it got better though, we unfortunately got kicked out of the garden that we were sitting in by the police. Apparently, someone had opened a gate that shouldn't have been opened, so a bunch of people were sitting in a forbidden part of the garden. So, on to finding a second scenic spot. Little did my mom know, this was about to be the spot she was going to become engaged at. I was let in on the secret a few days prior so I could help set it up. But as you can tell, she was completely surprised. It was an absolute honor to be a part of such a special moment. And despite being surrounded by strangers, everyone was really supportive and sweet, cheering for my mom and Randy as they realized the moment that was unfolding before them. My favorite part of rewatching this video of their engagement is pausing to observe everyone's reactions. Like, look at this girl in the back left clapping. Her jaw is just hitting the ground right now. It's hilarious. And the little boy standing between Mom and Randy. He's even applauding too. Plus the girl on the picnic blanket taking pics. Whoever she is, if she finds this video, I want those pictures. It was time to pop some bubbly and celebrate the newly engaged couple. The next minute or so is just filled with some wholesome family content that I wanted to document. So if you're not about that, go ahead and fast forward.
The engaged couple! Woo!
Shortly after that last scene, the storm clouds came rolling in and it began to downpour. Randy says it's a good omen for it to storm on the day of an engagement. I like the sound of that. We lightly jogged to our next destination while there was a break from the rain. The Louvre. Now, don't make the mistake I made and try to book tickets a week in advance during peak season. There won't be any available through the Louvre website, and the ones that resellers have to offer are double the normal price. I had been to the Louvre when I visited 6 years ago, but it really was a shame to not be able to show my mom, Randy, and Fabian such an iconic museum. Regardless of not being able to go inside, it's still a remarkable place to see from the exterior. And we got to see it on a rare occasion. Not only were the dark storm clouds rolling in on the city once again, but there was also hail in the forecast. Luckily, we found shelter in a small archway, giving us a dry and clear view of the hailstorm and mobs of people sprinting across the courtyard ahead. Umbrellas were flying in the air. The wildest part was when the hail got so large, it was creating smacking sounds as it hit the pavement and the building we were hiding under. Luckily, the woman next to us used her umbrella as a shield, so we wouldn't get pelted or even worse, concussed by the golf ball-sized hail. Can't forget about the lightning, too. Just as fast as the storm rolled in, it dissipated, and we were on the move again. I enjoyed some street music while Fabian enjoyed his Quaker Cruisley snacks. It was time to go home to freshen up for dinner after being soaked by the rain. Not just once, but twice. We took the metro back to our Airbnb on the east side and decided to grab dinner there. I was really grateful we found an Airbnb located in such a great part of the city. I would have never ventured to this side of Paris if it weren't for it. This part of the city was extremely charming, well-kept, and more family-oriented. Ironically enough, we settled on an Italian restaurant. Turns out the Italians living in France know how to make an incredible Neapolitan pizza. Bellies filled and eager to see more, we headed straight back to the metro station for some nighttime exploring. Seeing the city at night gives you a whole different experience, where familiar streets feel brand new. Here are just a few of the stunning scenes we stumbled upon on our way to Eiffel. What a wonderful way to end the perfect day. Day 2 was in full swing as we started the morning with a fabulous spread from Les Trouville. You can tell we all had a very different appetite. Randy with fish and chips, Fabian with a pasta dish, Mom with a salad and avocado toast, and me avocado toast and fries. Our mission today was to see Notre-Dame and tour the catacombs. Here she is, Notre-Dame. The last time I was here was February 2019, just 2 short months before the devastating fire. Now, 6 years later, renovations are complete and the cathedral was officially reopened to the public in December 2024. The fire, which broke out on April 15, 2019, is believed to have started in the attic beneath the cathedral's iconic spire, which collapsed during the blaze, though the exact cause was never confirmed. I'm not sure what the lines look like on a typical day, but it felt like this was a particularly large crowd.
The corners that you can access through their own lines with a card and cash payments, and as all the
While Mom and Randy tackled the long line to tour the inside of Notre Dame, Fabian and I moseyed on to find a hot drink. We stumbled upon Shakespeare Company bookstore plus the cafe attached next door. The original Shakespeare Company bookstore was opened in 1919 and became a legendary hangout spot for literary giants like Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce, and Gertrude Stein. The current version was reopened in 1951, and the cafe later added in 2015. Neighboring the famous bookstore is a charming spot named Square Renee Viviana. Aside from its quiet charm where you can sit to read a book, sip a coffee, and admire the gorgeous landscaping with the backdrop of Notre Dame, this square is also home to the oldest tree in Paris. Planted in 1601, it now stands 420 years old, propped up by some old stone for support. After the group reunited, we set off to explore the catacombs. Navigating the underground proved tricky when Google Maps pointed us to a station entrance that only led to the yellow line. Little did we know, the purple line was hidden directly beneath it, and it took a 118-foot, or 36-meter, descent to finally reach its platform. It felt eerie being that deep. The air is cooler, the walls seem a little tighter, and every distant echo feels amplified. It's oddly quiet, with a strange stillness you don't expect under a bustling city. This creepy feeling was about to become the new normal as we approached the entrance to the catacombs. Tickets are €25 per person, and you can book online. I booked our tickets 2 weeks in advance and don't recommend buying short notice if you're traveling with a group. And looky there, right across the street was a restaurant with my home state's name. That's gotta be a good omen, right? Okay, now onto the tour. Each of us received a handheld device with a script narrating stories at key points along our route. The publicly accessible route we toured is just over a mile, or roughly 1.7 kilometers long, with a 131-step descent down a spiraling staircase that's guaranteed to make you feel a bit dizzy.
We have left the city and entered the world of the dead.
Aside from the follow-along stories played on the device, there were stopping points with posters like these displaying some facts. This one stated, "By descending 20 meters below street level, you have traveled through 45 million years." Pretty wild. Something to keep in mind about the catacombs is that these tunnels were not built for tall people. Randy is well over 6 feet tall and had to hunch over for most of the tour. It's also a bit chilly and dirty down there, so bring a light jacket, but not the nicest one you own. We learned that the carvings on these tunnel walls were a kind of mapping system used by quarry workers and catacomb inspectors. The format is number, initial, and year. The number defines a specific part of the quarry, and the initials are from the inspector, quarryman, or foreman responsible for that inspection or maintenance work. And lastly marked is the year the work or inspection was done. The guided stories made it clear that the inspections were crucial so that the stability and safety of the underground structures was ensured. These tunnels were not originally built to be catacombs, but rather limestone quarries. Prior to these inspections, parts of Paris were collapsing due to weakened ground above these abandoned quarries. The stone extracted from these quarries was used to build much of Paris, including landmarks like the Notre-Dame Cathedral. Between 1786 and 1814, the abandoned limestone quarries beneath Paris were repurposed to house the bones of an estimated 6 million people. The bodies were relocated to the catacombs because of a public health crisis caused by overcrowded and unsanitary cemeteries. By the 18th century, these cemeteries were so overfilled that bodies were being buried in shallow mass graves and decaying remains were contaminating the groundwater and spreading disease. The stench and risk of infection led to widespread concern among the people of Paris. As a result, starting in 1786, bones from overfilled cemeteries were moved into the abandoned limestone quarries beneath Paris, what we now know as Catacombs of Paris, to protect public health and restore sanitation to the city. They became a tourist attraction in the 19th century. This is one of the vertical shafts that was built to lower the bones directly into the catacombs from the surface, making the transfer of remains more efficient and relatively discreet in the middle of the city. It was fascinating to learn about the history of the catacombs, but it was all very solemn and grim. May those souls rest in peace. We needed something to brighten our spirits after that, so that called for a French 75 and some snacks. This had to have been the cutest metro entrance I had yet to see. Our mission at this point was to make it back to city center after exiting the catacombs on the south side of the city. As you can see, Fabian got a brief workout in while I researched evening dinner spots for us. My mom looks mortified. Here are a few tips when using the Paris Metro. If you're planning to stay for a few days, get a Navigo Easy card. It's only €2 and it allows you to load single rides or day passes onto it. Then you don't have to keep waiting in line to buy a ticket at each station. Stations within the city aren't too far apart, less than a 10-minute walk. And finally, the metro runs daily from 5:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., and even later on weekends. Overall, I highly recommend using the metro. It's decently clean and is super affordable, each ride costing only €250. Now for the good stuff, dinner. You guessed it, Italian food again in France. This time at a place called Trattoria dell'Angelo. I know, what's wrong with us? Eating Italian food again in France? The Italian options were just simply too good not to. We each had really incredible dishes. Luckily, everyone was gracious enough to share, so we each got to sample a bit from all of the plates. My personal favorite way to eat with a group. Afterward, we hit the streets to scope out some classic tourist traps. Honestly, I love popping into these places, even if I have zero intention of buying anything. It never fails to amaze me how random the souvenirs can get. It's like each shop is competing to stock the most bizarre, unrelated items, all stamped with the city's name to instantly make them meaningful. It's hilarious. We soaked up our last views of the city center before ordering an Uber home for the night. The drive home truly made me realize how little of the city we actually got to explore. No matter how much time you have at a destination, it never quite feels like enough. I think it's a feeling most travelers can relate to. Back at the Airbnb, an interesting night was unfolding. Randy, a retired psychologist trained in hypnosis, was shaking the rust off his hypnotic skills, and Fabian volunteered as guinea pig. Needless to say, Mom and I had a show to entertain us for the rest of the night. We woke up to a gorgeous, sunny, and perfect spring morning. My heart ached that we weren't staying longer. Days like this are meant for exploring outside, not for traveling. But Mother Nature didn't care that we were going to spend hours on a bus today. Her sun rays and warmth were going to shine on Paris regardless of that. So, on we went, back to the bus station. Being back at the bus station reminded me how grateful I was to find this affordable way of travel. It just goes to show that you don't have to have thousands of dollars to make a trip happen. Get out of your comfort zone and try booking a bus ticket for a change if you haven't already. After all, the best parts of a trip aren't about getting there. It's about being there. So who cares if the journey to the destination isn't the most glamorous? What matters is the glamorous destination. That's my way of thinking, at least.